In 1513, the fate of Scotland was decided on the battlefield at Flodden. King James IV, one of Scotland's most ambitious rulers, led his nation into a devastating clash with England. But by the day's end, Scotland had lost more than a battle, it had lost its king. This is the story of the Battle of Flodden and the death of King James IV, a moment that changed the course of Scottish history. The Battle of Flodden didn't happen by chance, it was the culmination of years of tension between Scotland and England. In 1513, England's King Henry VIII was embroiled in a war with France. Bound by the Auld Alliance, King James IV of Scotland was compelled to honor his alliance with France and invade England. But James wasn't just fulfilling a political obligation, he saw this as an opportunity to assert Scotland's strength on the international stage. King James IV was determined to lead his army personally. With one of the largest and most well-equipped armies Scotland had ever assembled, he crossed into England, aiming to strike while Henry VIII was away fighting in France. But despite their strength in numbers, the Scottish forces were unprepared for the challenges they would face on English soil. As they approached Flodden, they encountered the Earl of Surrey, leading a well-organized English army ready for battle. On September 9, 1513, the two armies met on the muddy fields near Branxton Hill, in what would be one of the bloodiest battles in British history. The Scottish army, with its long pikes, struggled to adapt to the wet and sloping terrain. Meanwhile, the English troops, equipped with billhooks and longbows, took full advantage of the conditions, using their superior positioning to devastate the Scottish lines. James's ambitious strategy quickly began to unravel as his forces faltered under the relentless English assault. In the heat of battle, King James IV made a fateful decision. Rather than retreat and regroup, he charged directly into the thick of the fighting, determined to turn the tide. Surrounded by his loyal knights, James fought bravely, but he was outnumbered and overwhelmed. In the chaos, the king was struck down, becoming the last reigning monarch in British history to die on the battlefield. His death marked not only the loss of a king but the beginning of a national tragedy for Scotland. The death of James IV sent shockwaves through Scotland. The once mighty Scottish army was decimated, and the kingdom was left vulnerable and leaderless. Over 10,000 Scots perished on the battlefield that day, including many of the country's nobility. The defeat at Flodden was a catastrophe for Scotland, and the loss of its king left a void that would take years to fill. The Battle of Flodden is remembered as one of Scotland's darkest hours. The loss of King James IV marked the end of an era, and his death left the kingdom in a state of political turmoil. James's infant son, James V, would inherit the throne, but Scotland's strength and independence had been severely weakened. The tragedy of Flodden echoed for generations, shaping Scotland's future and its relationship with England for centuries to come. The Battle of Flodden wasn't just a military defeat, it was the end of a king's reign and a pivotal moment in Scotland's history. If you want to dive deeper into the battles that shaped nations and the leaders who gave their lives for their people, hit that like button, subscribe, and join us as we explore more defining moments in history.